Hi everyone, this is James. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about how to channel. And I'm laughing because of my own journey to get to this place and to answer some of these questions, which I know are ripe on many of your minds. One of them, can everybody channel? How can I decipher between if it's my mind or if it's actually my spirit guides or my higher self or some other energy? Why can't I hear my spirit guides? These other people can always hear their spirit guides. Why can't I talk to them all the time, but I never hear anything in return. These are all normal. This is all part of your progression. And first and foremost, the most important thing to know is that not only can everybody channel, but you're already doing it. It's already happening. And the difference is that some of us just have not come into the awareness of what quote unquote channeling is, or we look at somebody else and we see them doing some form of channeling and we want to be like them. And what that can do is sometimes it can take us off course of what our, the way in which we are attuned to channel ourselves. And so first off, I'll give you an example of how we're all channeling. If you, sometimes, like for me, if I go for a walk, sometimes I'm on the treadmill, anything that I kind of go into the stream of consciousness where I'm kind of zoned out and my mind is not a part of the conversation anymore, it's almost like this empty space. And during that time, I have so many ideas that flow through. There's this sense of knowing if certain decisions, I can bring it into this empty space and then I can get answers right away that I know are not from my mind. Sometimes I see things. And so that is one thing to take into consideration, is that you could be clairvoyance, where you see. You could be clairauditory, where you hear. It could be claircognizant, where you just feel like this deep, well, it's the deeper knowing. And then clairsentience is this feeling, you just feel it. And so you could have one or a variety of those different clairs that can come in different ways to communicate to you. Now, what hinders our ability to really hone in on that message is the mind coming into play, doubting what we are hearing or sensing or feeling or knowing. And when this happens, and what I've had to learn to do is to let go of the judgment and let go of the questions as to, is this really the mind or is this somehow my guides or higher self? And what happens is that when you start to ask the questions, then the mind kicks in, because now you are in the mind questioning if it's really happening. And so what I found to really be valuable is to just allow whatever that message is to come through and not to question it at all. And I just know, like, okay, here's the message, and whatever that is, I'm just going to trust that that is the message I'm supposed to hear. And then as you get more comfortable in that trusting, then there is no, it just is like this unification where even if the mind is there, it is now in line with spirit, is now in line with the divine wisdom that's already there. And there's no asking the question when the message comes through. And so that is where we're all moving into, by the way. It is this unification of the body, because we have been so conditioned for the ego or the mind to be outside of us. And it's a great tool, and it's played this perfect role for us to have this, really polarizing experience. However, the mind is a part of the entire body. It is an egoic construct. The mental plane is very much a part of all the other aspects of self. And so what we are doing as we are evolving into this higher state of awareness, or more expanded state of awareness, is that we are calling back all of these aspects of ourselves to come into harmony, to come into one. And that includes this egoic construct, or the mental plane, coming into one with all. And so the more that you can go into these different states and just trust whatever comes through, whatever you hear, just trust it. Don't doubt it. Allow it to come through. And one of the other aspects that really helped me was automatic writing. So when I started to do this work, I would sit down, and as soon as I started to hear something, I would just start writing. I didn't care if it made sense or not. I just allowed it to come through. And then after a couple of weeks, that is when some beings started to come through and start say, like, we are the Pleiadians, we are the Council of Nine, we are the one, there is only one, and that was an energy from Sirius B. And so that is what started to come through. And then as I allow the automatic writing to come through, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be some star being. It could be an ascended master. It could just be one of your spirit guides. It could be your higher self. And don't even like try to force it, because if you try to grab onto it, and my beautiful teacher and mentor always says this, it's like trying to grab onto air. You just can't. It just slips right through you. So if you just allow whatever it is to come through, including like, don't even try to force the name. Maybe you can ask, what is your name? And then just allow it to come through. And if you hear nothing, that is okay as well. Just let that take place. And then maybe at another time, you might ask the same thing. Or it might just come through without you even having to ask. And so the other element to this is about us wanting to do it the way someone else does it. And as soon as I saw like Bashar or Lee Harris, I was like, oh yeah, I want to do it like that. And then I realized that each one of us, of course, has our own fingerprint, our own architecture, our own blueprint. Basically, we're all unique. And through this uniqueness, the information wants to come through unique to us. And one of the beautiful messages I received probably like three or 4 months ago, they were talking about how we always compare. I know I'm guilty of this. And they had said, imagine seeing birds on top of tree branches, and they're just like chirping, and it's like they're singing this beautiful melody, this beautiful song that people are commenting on from far and wide. They're like, wow, do you hear those birds? Oh, I feel so relaxed. Oh, it sounds so beautiful. And that is true. But, or I should say, and the tree is literally there in stillness, photosynthesizing carbon into oxygen so that those birds can breathe, so that those birds can chirp, and so that the whole planet, humanity, can breathe and survive. But yet nobody talks about the trees, or I should say very few, because they're just not out in front. They're not the ones that are chirping and making all this, sound. But yet they're just sitting in their stillness, in their uniqueness, literally doing one of the most important jobs for all of us to be here on this planet. And so that is the same thing with channeling. Because when we want to start being like somebody else, we lose the true essence of who we are. And when we're constantly chasing or wanting to be something that we're not fully attuned to yet to be, we lose the essence of what wants to come through, because we're kind of chasing, and that takes us away from the beautiful snowflake that each one of us is. So I wanted to share that about channeling. Again, you're already doing it. Be gentle on yourself. Give yourself grace. Your spirit guides, the one way that I have learned to speak to them, if I can't hear them, I ask them just to send me a message, something that on this plane of reality and existence that I would understand that it was them. Sometimes it can be in numbers. Numbers started to come on strong for me about 5 or 6 years ago, where I'd start to see repeating numbers. And then as I started to open up my palette to numbers, I started to identify with way different, or many different types of not just repeating numbers, but just numbers in general, where I start to see a similar number over and over and over again. And then I know to look it up, and I take a look, and I get and I'm like, oh, okay, they were definitely listening. Another thing you can ask for are animals to come visit you. I had this one time, I was really going through it, and my spirit guides were offline. And of course I was like, oh great, here are my spirit guides. They're offline when I need them the most. And I said, could you at least send me a message to know that I'm on the right track? And sure enough, I was sitting on my dining room table. It was in the morning. I'd just gotten a hummingbird feeder. I was looking outside at the hummingbirds, and this beautiful white spotted hawk landed right on the ledge right outside my window. I'd never seen one ever, at least not where I was staying. And it just stared at me, and I just started bawling. Like tears just started to flow, because I just knew, like it was every cell in my body started to tingle. And that's when I knew that this was a message from them. So they are always around us. Sometimes what can happen is that based upon what we might be going through in our lives at that time, the configuration of our field might be inhibiting us to a certain extent from allowing some of the messages that come through from like an auditory perspective, or even like a knowing perspective. And so literally you're just moving through different, I always see them as geometries, different geometries. And then sometimes those geometries can come into alignment where you can start to hear and the conversation is very clear. I mean, I have some conversations with my guides where it's literally like I'm talking to somebody who's right in front of me and it's crystal clear. And then other times it's like I don't hear anything, I don't see anything, and I'm like, oh, what is going on? And it can be very frustrating at times because for me, I found that sometimes they do this when I need them the most. And it's almost like they're just like, James, do you realize that you got this? You know, like we are always here, yes, but you don't really need us right now. You can dig deep and you can find this within yourself to move through this or to go into your stillness and to find the answers. And so that's what I would also say to all of you is that you already have the answers inside. You are your spirit guides. You are the star beings. You are the ascended masters. You hold all of this wisdom. And part of this expansion that is happening is us pulling back those different aspects of ourselves that we think are outside of us. And then we realize that once we come into the oneness of all things, that we are already that. So I hope this was beneficial. If you have any additional questions, please leave them in the comments. I'm also considering maybe sometime this week just channeling what the energies have to say about channeling to see if there's something else that might come through that could be beneficial. And I'll do that here on this video or on another video. Okay, have a wonderful day.